Hello, we're today here with Member of Parliament Bob Zimmer, who is representing Prince George and Peace River and Northern Rockies of British Columbia in the Canadian Parliament. On March 8th, 2017, Member of Parliament Bob Zimmer spoke about Ethiopia in Parliament. That started many of us. And I'm going to talk to him about his views and Canadian foreign policy in general and Canadian assistance and foreign policy toward Ethiopia. But first, we would like to hear what he said in Parliament on March 8th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak to the concerns that have been raised to me by my constituents regarding the political climate in Ethiopia, which have also been raised in the U.S. by my counterpart, Congressman Chris Smith. What is happening in Ethiopia right now needs to be addressed in the strongest possible terms. Ethiopia is potentially on the verge of civil war and/or genocide, and we are in the position to stop it, but only if we do something more than reiterate concerns or call on the Ethiopian government to make genuine improvements. Opposition party leader Dr. Merera Gudina was jailed upon his return to Addis Ababa following a speech he gave to members of the European Parliament condemning the government for its human rights violations. A 6-month state of emergency has been declared in an effort to quell dissenters. Thousands of peaceful protesters have been killed or imprisoned, and at least 88,000 people have had to flee as refugees or migrants last year alone. What is happening in Ethiopia is being called an abomination, and I encourage this government to take notice and take the strongest possible stand against it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
MP Bob Zimmer, thanks for being with us today.
My pleasure.
So, when you spoke about Ethiopia, I've never seen a Western member of parliament or a politician or a member of any administration in the West speaking with such clarity and strength about what's going on in Ethiopia. It was such a refreshing speech that you gave us, and it looks like members of parliament applauded it. It looks like there was something that touched the conscience of many. So what made you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and then probably tell us what actually made you deliver that kind of strong speech?
Yeah, I wanted to recognize Bob Soraya and Peter Kent, two fellow members of parliament that sat with me when I made the speech. They have deep concerns about Ethiopia and the country and the people of Ethiopia. The reason why I made the speech is I met two of my constituents who are from Ethiopia that live in Fort St. John, and my kids have grown up around their kids, and came in to meet with me and just let me know about the current situation in Ethiopia. We've been watching at a sort of a higher level where we see there's issues there, but where we actually dug into some details about how many people are being displaced and how much in disarray the current situation is in Ethiopia, with people losing their lives, with people being put out of their homes, and the unrest that's in Ethiopia. So to see that and how terrible it is over there right now was a deep concern to me, and I thought something needed to be done. And then I also noticed a colleague of mine from the South, Representative Chris Smith, who I just recently met at the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, has been an advocate for Ethiopia as well and made similar statements in Congress. So to me, it's an important issue and it's serious, and we need to do something about it in Canada.
So, Mr. Zimmer, this is a matter of personal connection, or is it a matter of policy concern for you?
Yeah, it's both. It's one thing when my kids grow up with some other kids in Fort St. John, and their heritage is Ethiopian. We get to know the people, and you start to care about them. So for us as a nation, we want to make sure that we do what's right by Ethiopia and do what we can to help the situation in Ethiopia.
Sometimes people in lawmakers usually look at for as a foreign policy issues from the interest of their own country. Sometimes it's a promotion of human rights. I think Western democracies usually link human rights protection to the national interest, sometimes linked for hegemonic powers, geopolitical interests. What do you think is more important for Canada as they conduct their foreign policy, especially toward Africa, where authoritarian governments are prevalent?
Yeah, I think I'll go from my own premise. I believe that everybody is created equal, and so like to see people treated with respect around the world and have freedoms that we have here in Canada. So certainly, as a relationship goes between Canada and Ethiopia, it's an important relationship. But I think it stands from a premise of just caring about the individual and making sure that as a society that Ethiopia is okay. We don't like to see people harmed in any shape or form around the world. So seeing this happen in Ethiopia is the reason why I got involved, and the concern that came through my constituents is real, and we want to see how we can help.
For Canada, Ethiopia is the third largest recipient of Canada's international assistance after Spain in Afghanistan. To be sure, Ethiopia received about $193 million in the year 2014 to 15. So that's a significant amount for a country like Ethiopia. On the other hand, 29% of Ethiopia's population they live on $1.25. So, what do you think that Canada's development assistance to Ethiopia is doing after many years of pouring that kind of money into Ethiopia?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't know where the money is on the ground. I've just recently been watching more closely, so I haven't seen where the money was spent. We made some inquiries to the Department of Foreign Affairs just about the situation before I did my speech, just to get a current, view from our government's perspective. And honestly, didn't get a real good picture of where that money's going. So I guess that would be another concern of seeing where the money is getting spent. And is it being spent appropriately where it's helping the people that need it the most? That's a question that I still need to answer, and look forward to doing that.
It's not alleviating poverty in the country. That's the picture. And Canada has been a very generous provider of assistance, development assistance to Ethiopia, but it's not making a whole lot of difference in the lives of many Ethiopians. Ethiopia is still about 173rd out of 187 countries by the Human Development Index. So you would be concerned that Canada's development assistance should alleviate poverty to some extent, but the money that must be going somewhere else. Rather than
we've seen certain situations with NGOs, non-governmental organizations, where the money gets given out, it gets distributed, but we don't see much in terms of return or get a good picture of where the money is actually realized on the ground. And we've seen some problems with that. We've seen our money goes, but we don't see results, as you're saying. So that's something, again, I can't speak to it specifically. What's on the ground in Ethiopia is maybe you can, but it's something that, like I said to my constituents who brought the issue to me, is that this is the start of the conversation for me, is that we need to do some digging, and it's not over. We need to keep going on this file and shine a light on what's going on there.
Absolutely. That's also a concern for many of us who have been following Ethiopia for the last 15 years. Particularly in the last 10 years, there have been laws that the government had passed. One of them is to restrict freedom. One of them is called the civil society laws or the charities laws, which basically banned international NGOs from operating within Ethiopia, which means that the money, the generosity of the people of Canada, the taxpayers' money, is clearly not accounted for. It's probably going to some pockets of individuals. So Canada needs to be really sure about that their financial generosity actually is not helping individuals, that it is helping the country. That you would continue to probe into that as a member of parliament, I hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've said this broadly as a nation. Canada is a very generous country, and It's not the government that gives out the money, it's the taxpayers that give it, because the government are the ones that maybe sign the final check, but it's coming out of the back pockets of taxpayers to help other countries around the world, and they want to make sure that the money is going to places that really need it, and that it makes it there, so it actually helps people that are hungry get fed, and helps people that need a house get housing and shelter. So I think Canadians, just as much as Ethiopians, want to make sure that the money is well spent.
Absolutely. Well, I can give you one more example about Canada channels its development aid through the Canadian International Development Agency, CIDA. One of the areas they really wanted to help the Ethiopian government was in capacity building for good governance. One specific area is the justice system, assistance to improving the justice system, increasing its independence from the executive. But after how many years, I don't know, but many, many years of direct assistance from the Canadian government through the CIDA, what we right now see in Ethiopia is not an independent judiciary that is protecting the rights of individuals and providing protection for many. What you see is the justice system itself is being used to incarcerate people who express their views. Do you think that Canadian government agency should be scrutinized better so that money that is taken, as you said, from the pockets of Canadians, the generosity of Canadians, is actually contributing not to the suffering but to the improvement of lives for many?
Yeah, I can't speak to specifically what judgments and what particular judges and what allegiances they have, I suppose. But what I am concerned about, even just a recent report that I read yesterday about Ethiopia, where more are being jailed. I've read about the opposition leader, for instance, being jailed under terrorism charges, and an elected individual that's put in jail is a concern to us, especially in Parliament. We're elected officials as well. One of the things that we count is very important is our parliamentary privilege, and once we're elected, we represent hundreds of thousands of individuals. So to see an opposition leader be jailed as a result of an opinion or of speeches that are made by that individual are deeply concerning for me. And again, that's why we want to get to the bottom of what's going on in Ethiopia.
What you said in your speech is that Ethiopia is on the verge of a civil war and probably genocide. That probably is a very strong term to use. Is there any reason why you felt that way, that Ethiopia is basically on the verge of a civil war if something is not being done about it?
Yeah, well, we've been watching just the unrest in Ethiopia, and then I've talked to a few people that I would consider good sources for me for foreign affairs in terms of what's going on in Ethiopia, and those are terms that were given to me and were used by those individuals as well, and people that I trust, and then matching that up with news of what's happening on the ground, it meshes with what I've heard. So I think what we want to do, we want to be, we want to stop something happening before it really, gets out of control. And I guess some would argue it's already that way. But making my statement, what I want to do is send a solid signal that Canada is watching, and we want to see peace in Ethiopia. We want all governments and individuals to know that Canada is concerned about what's happening, and that the ultimate goal for us is that Ethiopia is at peace within itself. And if my speech was helpful in any way, that's why we did it. Now, that said, that's one speech. I want to do more, so we want to again shine that light on the situation in Ethiopia, and hopefully prevent something happening before it does. And that's what's the ambition behind us getting involved now.
Do you personally believe that the protection of human rights for every human being, wherever they live, is a goal of Canadian democracy?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's foundational for me as an individual, but us as a country too, that human rights is something that we promote globally. And Canada, I would say, is pretty good at doing that. And that's why these funds get distributed around the world, is to promote this cause. And equality of person and make sure that rights are upheld and freedoms are upheld, and so we will continue to do that.
So, do you think that sometimes realpolitik, the interest, a country's national interest is important? Mm-hmm. At times it collides with protection of human rights and respect for human dignity. You think that protection of human rights is antithetical to protecting national interest for Canada?
No, I think it's part of the values of Canadians. So it's for us, if we believe that with sincerity, then I don't see it as antithetical at all. It's something that, that we support ourselves and we promote, and it's not for a larger purpose other than freedoms that need to be realized by people around the world. I mean, like I said when I started, it starts with me with the belief that we're all created equal, and that's why we support helping other countries where necessary.
Yeah, that's also very encouraging that you say that all humans are created equal wherever they live, and they should be respected for being human, not that they belong to any particular group. But in Ethiopia has been on the path for democratization for the last 25 years. But over the last 25 years, rather than opening up, protecting freedom of expression, freedom of association, basic fundamental human rights, what we see is the narrowing of those protections and the violations, egregious violations of human rights.
Right.
We believe, some of us who are following Ethiopia believe that the reason for this is the demographic situation. That is, democracy is usually one man, one vote, one person vote. But if the political system is set up in a way that ensures the supremacy of one ethnic group, which in Ethiopia for the last 25 years has controlled the military, the security apparatus, the economy, it's going to be very difficult for Ethiopia to become a democracy. Is there anything that Canada can do to stop the damage that ethnic minority regimes are likely to cause, as we have seen in many parts of Africa and other parts of the world? Is there anything that Canada can do?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak to your current government situation as whether it favors one or another, but I think what we again is treat as foundational is that equality of person, and that that all people are created equal, and if that isn't the case, then we need to do what we can to make that playing field as level as we can make it. So if what you say is true, then again, it's my lack of knowledge of Ethiopian of groups within the country and to fully understand it, I guess. But no, absolutely, we support a level playing field for all individuals in Ethiopia, and would respect the fact that or expect the fact that they should all be treated as such, that they all would be treated equal. And if that isn't the case, then something needs to change.
Is there anything that a member of parliament could do to first investigate this thing, and change policies with?
Absolutely. So that's why, again, we've started on this journey. Again, like I said to my constituent, this is the start of work that we're going to help with. It's not just one speech and we move on from there. I think from now, as an individual member of parliament, and there's other ones with me as well that are concerned, we're going to start looking a lot closer at what the policies are in Ethiopia. Again, what our funding is, Canadians, through CETA, how the funds get distributed on the ground in Ethiopia, and those kind of questions. We're going to start to look with a little bit closer of a view with the microscope and see where things are actually at there. And that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, is to, again, bring some of these issues to light. And with more attention, often solutions are more readily seen. But when people aren't watching the situation and it's going on behind our backs, it's tough to help the situation. But now it's in front of us. and now Ethiopia has our attention, and we'll be pursuing some investigation as time progresses.
I have a question regarding limitations to what Canada can do from experience as well. That is, the neighbor to the south has the war on terrorism, and that's the security partnership interest that they have in the Horn of Africa. But you mentioned in your speech that you're working with Representative Chris Smith.
Yes.
Is there a way that you're coordinating? Because at the end of the day, the hegemon, the more important power in the world, has influence on what other countries could do as well.
Yeah, I haven't. Again, we connected once, and we need to connect. I've been trying on my end, but we're both extremely busy individuals. So that hasn't occurred yet. But absolutely, that's what I'm trying to do, is work together with my U.S. counterparts, and just, if not for information, to have a coordinated effort to effect change in Ethiopia. So yes, we'll be working on that and seeing how we can get a solution that we think will be best for all our countries, I guess, and ultimately Ethiopia.
There are consequences from the policies of repression and persecution and killing, maiming that the Ethiopian government had been doing over the last year, especially from the Oromia region, where the historic protest known as the Oromo protest, occurred. Oromia is about half of the country. Oromo people are about half of the country, but many are fleeing the country to the neighboring states. Canada is very generous, and that's the reason that I brought up the comparison or connection with American policy, is that the United States is closing its doors to refugees. But there are many, many refugees that fled the repression in Ethiopia, in the neighboring countries, and further afield in North Africa. Is Canada prepared to do more in terms of migration and helping people who are actually fleeing the repression?
We've always had a solid policy for refugees around the country, around the globe, I should say, specifically with countries that are oppressed and that they're fleeing. People are fleeing for their lives or of persecution. So, and I don't think, to be fair to the Americans to the south with the new administration, that they're saying no to refugees. I think it's specifying certain countries that are of concern, I guess, with terrorism. They've been highlighted, I guess, as part of with a more scrutinized process for those particular countries. But I don't think they're saying no to refugees per se. I think they're just concerned about that extremist wing of certain religions in the world. So I expect that they will continue to take refugees, and Canada will as well. I think Syria has our attention right now more so than other countries, but there's a lot of countries around the world that we still look at as a concern, and we will be taking as refugees. It's been our policy for many years, and will continue to be so.
Yeah, just wanted to bring that to your attention that, of course, there are many, many refugees around the world.
Yeah.
But since we are the subject of Ethiopia, there are many refugees from the Oromia region in particular that we know are many. Is there anything that we, the people that are connected to the area and closely watching, can do to make it clear that the refugee crisis is a problem that Canada could?
It's a great question. I think, I'm just one member of parliament, I guess, and we do have a lot of influence as individuals, but I think what's key is that individual members of the Ethiopian community that are concerned need to contact their local member of parliament and voice their concerns. I think a phone call to our particular office or emails to our office are noticed. I look at every letter that's sent to me as an individual. I read every one that comes to me. So I think what I would say to the Ethiopian community in Canada is to, again, let your local member of parliament know that you're concerned, and let them know the gravity of the concern, like how this is affecting people's lives. People are dying for this, and that the issue needs to be brought to the House, just like my constituents did. And the more voices that we have with the issue, the better chance the solution is resolved, you know. So I just would challenge that your community that's even going to watch this, that they just get it more involved. Like two constituents of mine just came into my office one day because of a friendship, and here we are. So I think other people need to understand it is that easy to contact us and to pursue that the voice with us, and we'll bring it forward from there.
I think democracies usually don't fight a lot. Democracies don't repress, and promoting democracy, democratization, respect for human rights and human dignity is a good foreign policy. We agree on that one. So, I want to thank the Canadian government for its valuing human rights better than economic or strategic interests.
Yeah.
But in particular, on behalf of the people that I don't represent anyone, but on behalf of the people that actually heard you speak with clarity and urging the government to be strong in scrutinizing that the rights of people in Ethiopia, in particular in the Oromia region, are protected. So that's what makes all of us humans. That's what we share.
Yeah.
That's commonality. And we really thank you for the clarity with which you spoke and your continued work in this respect.
Well, I appreciate the time, and you're welcome, and thank you for spending the time with me. But challenge you too to just keep on with it. It's again the first step of many, and we look forward to talking again in the future.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with us and for for giving us voice in the Parliament of Canada and around the world as well.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak to the concerns that have been raised to me by my constituents regarding the political climate in Ethiopia, which have also been raised in the U.S. by my counterpart, Congressman Chris Smith. What is happening in Ethiopia right now needs to be addressed in the strongest possible terms. Ethiopia is potentially on the verge of civil war and/or genocide, and we are in the position to stop it, but only if we do something more than reiterate concerns or call on the Ethiopian government to make genuine improvements. Opposition party leader Dr. Merera Gudina was jailed upon his return to Addis Ababa following a speech he gave to members of the European Parliament condemning the government for its human rights violations. A 6-month state of emergency has been declared in an effort to quell dissenters. Thousands of peaceful protesters have been killed or imprisoned, and at least 88,000 people have had to flee as refugees or migrants last year alone. What is happening in Ethiopia is being called an abomination, and I encourage this government to take notice and take the strongest possible stand against it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I have a member from Mission.